This is a special edition of the Sean Hannity Show. America under siege.
Choice and competition.
Choice and competition.
Competition. Choice.
Choice and competition. Choice and competition.
I happen to be a proponent of single-payer healthcare plan. That's what I'd like to see.
This is your home for conservatism in exile. The Sean Hannity Show starts right here, right now.
You know, folks, you send your kids to school, you think they're going to learn reading, writing, arithmetic. Well, not the case in this school, elementary school in New Jersey. Folks, I'm telling you, the outrage over this is unbelievable. Let's play the tape. Well, you can just say, just anoint him the king of the country and the world. Jay Sekulow is with us for the American Center of Law and Justice, and Michael Brown, D.C. councilman, is with us. Guys, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having us, Sean. Hey, Sean, how are you?
What do you hear, Jay, when you hear that?
Well, first of all, could you imagine if this was a chant to George Bush, the outrage that would be going on? So I think, look, this is part of an overall plan. I'm sure the National Education Association and others are engaging in this as propaganda. That's what it is. You call it anything you want, but at the end of the day, that's what it is. And the idea that this is happening in schools and parents don't even know what's going on until after the fact makes it worse.
What do you think, Michael? It sounds like indoctrination to me. Let's see. Barack Hussein Obama. Well, first of all, I thought we weren't allowed to use his middle name. I thought that was all out of bounds. Just ask Bill Cunningham, my friend in Cincinnati. I guess it's now okay to use his full name. Is that acceptable?
Well, if you remember during the inauguration, President Obama is proud of his name, and that's why he used it.
Well, then why was it such a problem during the campaign? Nobody was allowed to use his name. Why now is it acceptable?
I can't answer why. I think
seems odd, doesn't it?
And media and bloggers who were speculating on why. But the bottom line, when he was inaugurated, he was proud of his name and he used it.
But don't you think it's odd that during the campaign people were excoriated for using it? That there was some sinister purpose that they had in using it?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you're the folks that you kind of pal around with, the Republicans and the folks on the far right.
Hang on a second. Wait. You're right. I don't pal around with Reverend Wright and Bill Ayers. I'm not palling around with them. You're right.
No terrorist for you, Sean.
I'm talking about folks that were going to use the middle name of Hussein as a political tool to scare voters away from the president. And that clearly
I want to say, Michael, the thing about the political tool, the fact of the matter is the president should use his full name. Doesn't faze me at all. I don't like the fact that Sean said that during the campaign, if you said it, you were some kind of, Islamophobe. But what the fact of the matter is the president's using his middle name in his foreign policy initiatives. And he has the right to do that. He's the president of the United States. But the double standard here, and then the pledging of allegiance to the president, and anybody that dissents, whether it's, the people, the young couple from Acorn or whoever it might be, that are trying to expose what's going on with all of these agendas and all of these programs.
But you're talking about exposing an agenda. You're talking about exposing an agenda. Have you ever heard of a president who's giving a policy address and schools were banning them around the country? No one has ever heard of a president being banned from giving a policy address, especially on education when it had to do with young people. That was ridiculous.
The president's address was not going to address substance. It was going to be political expenditure for the health care debate, which was not appropriate to use the public schools as a political platform.
Did you hear a health care debate in that speech? I heard talking about kids studying hard and trying to be the best people you can be.
He changed the speech. The speech was changed. Everybody knows that. It's fine. I had no problem with the speech, but I also think, look, local schools have local control.
And President Bush never went around at all to promote the Iraqi war and why we should do it. He never went around to do that.
In schools, he did not.
Of course
not in elementary schools.
I'm talking about double standards. Yeah, double standards. You got to think about yourself too.
Let me go back. Let me go back to this. You know something? Let's go to Jay's point, and a point I made on TV last night. If this song were sung about George W. Bush, what would the reaction of the left have been?
Well, I'm not going to defend what we just listened to. I'm not going to do that. I think you're right. I think there is a double standard sometimes, but it goes both ways. Just as
where's the double standard on the right?
The illustration I just mentioned, there's a double standard both ways.
I don't understand what the double standard is. I mean, I find this frankly, a little bit disconcerting. Look, first of all, if you look overall around the country and where our kids are with reading, writing, and math, you know what? They're not doing particularly well, especially in inner cities in this country. And, to think that we're going to take time out of our busy day and indoctrinate a captive audience, young students, and have them chanting praises to the president like this, I would think that you'd be offended by it.
Well, Sean, part of the educational process, when you mention young folks, especially in urban areas, is not, yes, it's about school, reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's also about being proud, having good self-esteem. And when you look at the President of the United States that looks like you, that develops that. There's nothing wrong with people praising the President of the United States.
I didn't notice that if every child in that video was African American. I didn't even look, to be honest with you.
I didn't say African American. I said you used the term urban, and I'm just.
Michael, there's a difference between praising the office of president and having the president be a role model for families, whether it's inner city or suburbia. I think, the president has apparently a very good family life. I think that's a good model. That's very different than doing a chant of support to the point of outrage, because here's what happens. You know what it does? It takes the American people and it says, why are we doing this? Why are we now making this an issue in the schools? It's one thing to respect the office and respect the president. I certainly do. I disagree with policies and strongly disagree with policies. It's another thing to shout praises to the president as if he is the Messiah.
And by the way, and you can't mention God in these public schools. You cannot pray even in a sports field in many of these places. I mean, it's almost like they're worshiping. A leader like this.
Sean, it is you were about to say it is a worship cult. And I mean, and the thing I tie it back to the great coverage you've been doing and others on this Acorn situation. Here you got two, 20-something-year-olds that do an incredible investigative reporting piece. They're the ones now getting sued by Acorn, and Acorn was the complicit in trying to create an illegal activity with underage sex trade, and they have the audacity to go to court.
Yeah, but Jay, you know that lawsuit's not going anywhere.
Nowhere. It should be thrown out before it starts.
Well, Sean, you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, and I actually agree with you on the Acorn issue. If something bad was going on, there should be an investigation. There's no question about it.
All right, but I want to go back to this because you seem to be ducking this. If you heard that your son or daughter in kindergarten came home and that this was a song they were reciting in school about George Bush, what would your reaction be?
I would understand. I would have to tell my kids and let them make their own decision about.
No, you wouldn't.
You would President of the United States. And
no, you wouldn't.
And then they can make their decision.
No, you wouldn't. You would be down at the school saying, "Why are you indoctrinating my child into believing stuff?"
But it's the same debate, Sean, that we went through about Pledge of Allegiance in classrooms, and some folks.
It's not the Pledge of it. This is the Pledge of Allegiance to Obama.
No.
It's one thing to pledge allegiance to your country. You can't mandate that, by the way. The courts have not said you must do it. It's very different, though, having a pledge allegiance to the country where you live and are a citizen versus pledging allegiance not to the office of the presidency in respect to the presidency, but to the individual as if you're giving some blind allegiance to the Savior. Michael, that's the problem with this. It's the atmospherics of this.
I think there's also an undercurrent problem that people in this country, and Sean, you and I have had this debate before, that race still plays an everyday role in American life.
Why are you turning this? Why does this have to do with race? This has to do with.
Let me make my point, Sean. So a lot of people have been uncomfortable with a person of color who is now president.
What does this have to do with this discussion?
Because it has a lot to do with.
You know what the problem with this racial argument is, and this is where it's absolutely fallacious. And this is, Sean, enough. Look, we are the only civilized country, developed country in the world that has a black president of the civilized and developed countries of our level. We're the only one. So to say that this is a racist overtone, nonsense. We elected
there's some countries in Africa.
I think that we are past the race issue, and I hope we are in this context.
There's some countries in Africa that would disagree with your last statement.
Yeah, no, I said Western Hemisphere, talking about the West. I'm not talking about, and then if you look in Europe, of course, they don't. But with all their talk about liberalism, they don't have a minority president. We do. I think that's fine.
But you know what? Let me tell you why race. Let me tell you why race doesn't matter in this.
Gotten by race in this country, and it doesn't matter anymore.
But Michael, you've successfully
ignorant comment.
Well, let me move this beyond, because if, for example, I've always been upset with liberals. If we send our kids to schools, I'm a Christian, Michael, and I have values that I'm instilling in my kids, and you send your kids off to a public school, I am equally offended if through the indoctrination process that liberal teachers feel that they have the right to circumvent values that I'm trying to instill in my kids. For example, if they want to do cucumber and banana and condom demonstrations with my kids, I think that is out of line. I think that's offensive. And similarly, if we get into the political process, all right, maybe you like Barack Obama and his policies. That's fine. I don't agree with his policies. I don't want a teacher taking a young kid and having them chant this song in praise of him, or in praise of any Republican for that matter, or any conservative for that matter.
And then Sean, and I think on some of these, I think you and I agree on some of this.
How about this one?
You're not going to be able to pick an argument with me on this one, because on some of it I agree with you.
All right, let me go to this other issue. We have one of President Obama's other czars is coming under fire. The guy's name, the appointee, is Kevin Jennings. FoxNews.com has a report on this. His safe school czar, former school teacher, who's advocated promoting homosexuality